Episode 64, 3 Bus Horror Stories. Lena had finally ended work one night, rushed back home to grab her stuff, and headed straight for the bus stop for a long bus journey back to her village for the holidays. So when Lena was finally at the bus stop, she saw another lady waiting for the bus. Lena sat right next to the lady and just smiled. The lady smiled too and said, "Hey, glad I'm not the only one waiting for the bus back to the village." Lena then replied, "Yeah, it's kind of creepy to wait out here alone at almost midnight." The both of them continued chatting before the bus eventually came. They got up to the bus and found a couple of empty seats next to each other. Lena sat next to the lady and continued chatting. About half an hour into the journey, Lena received a call from her mom who said, "Hey honey, where are you? It's getting late. It's dangerous to still be on the bus so late at night." Lena then said, "It'll still be a couple more hours before I arrive, Mom, but don't worry. There are many people in the bus." "Okay, that's good. I'll video call you so I know that everything's okay," said Lena's mom. Lena's mom video called and then said, "I thought you said that the bus was packed with other people, but I can't see anyone else in the video." Lena then replied, "That's weird. I don't know what's wrong, Mom. There must be something wrong with the video." Lena turned around to look and could clearly see that there were other people sitting in the bus, all minding their own business. Lena's mom then said, "I might be old and don't know much about technology, but I surely know that no technology glitch can make other people not appear in the video. All the seats behind you are clear to see, but it's completely empty." Lena became nervous and confused. Lena looked at the lady beside her, and the lady just smiled at Lena before Lena continued talking to her mom. Lena then said, "Anyway, Mom, I made a new friend from the bus stop earlier. She's seated beside me now. Can you see her?" Lena panned her phone camera towards the lady. Lena's mom then said, "My dear, I still see no one else. I'm getting very worried. I think you should alight the bus immediately." Whilst Lena's mom was still talking, the video call was suddenly cut off. The air became eerie, as Lena was now beginning to feel frightened. But before she could say anything else, the lady beside her just smiled and said, "Did you finally find out?" Lena began trembling as she looked around and saw that the bus was empty. It was just her and the lady beside her. Lena then said, "Please, just let me out. Please don't hurt me." The lady then said, "Oh, don't be afraid. Not all spirits are out to harm people. We are on our way, too." All Lena remembered after that was the lady hugged her as Lena struggled to release herself before Lena passed out from fear. The next thing Lena remembered was being woken up by a voice that said, "Hey, miss, are you okay? Miss?" Lena opened her eyes and saw a staff member wearing the bus conductor uniform, looking at her worriedly. Lena looked around and noticed that she was already at the bus station at her village. Lena got up and asked, What happened, sir?" The staff member replied, "I don't know, miss. I just saw you laying at the corner, so I ran over." Lena slowly gathered her thoughts and explained to the staff member about what she had experienced earlier. The staff member told Lena that it wasn't the first time that he had heard such experiences. The staff member then assisted to call for Lena's mom, who came together with other family members to pick Lena up from the bus station. Until today, Lena never knew exactly what happened to her. What happened after she passed out? How did she eventually alight the bus? And who was that lady? It was late at night, and Sam was completely worn out from studying for the exams at his school's library. So Sam packed up his stuff and left for the bus stop. The bus soon arrived, and as expected, there was barely anyone else on the bus except for a couple of other passengers. Sam knew that it would be an hour's journey home. So Sam closed his eyes and fell asleep almost instantly. About 20 minutes later, Sam got woken up from the rocky bus ride. When he opened his eyes, he looked around and realized that he was still quite a distance from his destination. Sam looked in front and saw that there was only one female passenger left, who sat close to the front of the bus. The couple of people that he saw when he first boarded the bus had already alighted the bus while Sam was asleep. Sam went back to sleep, and about 10 minutes later he got woken up from the rocky ride again. He looked in front and saw that the lady who sat in front earlier had moved back a couple of seats and was now closer to him. Sam didn't think much about it and thought that it was just his tired eyes that weren't seeing right. Sam looked behind and was sure that there was no one else. So Sam closed his eyes again. While having his eyes closed, he realized that he could no longer fall asleep. So, after 5 minutes of trying to fall asleep and not being able to do so, Sam decided to open his eyes and look out the window. Sam then gazed in front and realized that the female passenger he saw earlier was no longer seated in front of him. Sam felt that it was weird, as he was sure that the bus didn't stop while he had his eyes closed but couldn't fall asleep. So Sam thought to himself, then how could the lady have possibly alighted the bus? Sam looked around and was startled to see the same lady now seated right at the back of the bus, with her head down and hair covering her face. And knowing earlier that there was no one seated behind, Sam knew he couldn't have mistaken the female passenger for someone else. Sam began to wonder, why does she keep on changing seats? Sam was beginning to feel spooked by the situation. He thought about dropping off at the next stop, but knew that he had to walk another 30 minutes if he alighted at the upcoming bus stop. Then Sam began hearing humming sounds coming from the lady. The humming sound gradually got louder, as though she was coming closer to Sam. That was the final straw for Sam. He pressed the button and walked towards the bus's exit door. Sam stood at the door impatiently waiting to alight the bus. Sam tried his best not to look at the back of the bus, afraid that the female passenger might be coming towards him. But as he finally arrived at the bus stop, the door opened. Sam can't help but to take a glance towards the back of the bus before alighting. That was when Sam saw no one there. There was no one at the back of the bus and no one at any other seats in the bus. Sam quickly alighted the bus and avoided eye contact as the bus moved off from the bus stop. While on his long walk back home, Sam thought to himself that his instincts were right all along. There never was a female passenger in the bus. It was just a spirit possibly passing by, or probably just wanted to give Sam a little scare. It was an evening like any other, and Casey was waiting for the bus home. She looked through her bus app, and her usual bus would take about 20 minutes to arrive. The other bus that she rarely took and would take a longer route was about to arrive in 5 minutes. So, when the bus with the longer route finally came, Casey decided to hop on board and sat near the front after noticing that there wasn't anyone else on the bus. A few minutes in, and as the bus passed by a quiet lane, the bus driver suddenly said, "Yes, that is correct. Just a straight road ahead and we'll arrive in no time." Casey thought that the bus driver was talking on the phone with his colleague, so Casey continued minding her own business. However, about a minute later, Casey heard the driver speak again. "Yes, you're almost there, just a while longer." This time around, Casey thought that the conversation sounded weird. It was as though the bus driver was speaking to a passenger. Casey thought to herself, was he speaking to me? Casey then heard the bus driver speak again. "Yes, sir, you're almost there. The bus stop is right around the corner." Casey became slightly creeped out by it, but before Casey could think about what to do next, the bus soon arrived at the next bus stop, right in front of a graveyard, and the driver pushed the button to open the exit door. Casey was scared and confused as she turned to look back at the exit door. She saw no one exiting the bus. She turned back in front of the bus driver and saw the bus driver push the button to close the door. The bus driver drove off from the bus stop, and that was when Casey saw, out of nowhere, an elderly man standing at the bus stop and waving goodbye to Casey. Casey jumped out of her seat away from the window and let out a quick scream. The bus driver then said, "Relax, young lady, it was just an old man's spirit. He sometimes takes this bus, and whenever I'm approaching his graveyard bus stop, I would always feel a few taps on my shoulder, although I can't see him. After years of driving this bus, I know it's him, so I'd always say that we're almost there. He can be a little impatient sometimes, but don't worry, he doesn't mean any harm." Casey was speechless. Too afraid to ask anything, Casey sat back down until she finally arrived at her bus stop. And from that night onwards, never did Casey dare to take that bus again, even though her usual bus takes forever to arrive.